I want to put this disclaimer out there. This video idea is not an original of mine. I'm a subscriber of Bailey Sarian, who I love and adore. She's so dope and so beautiful. And she came up with this concept that every Monday she does a murder mystery or conspiracy video. I just thought it was so cool. Like, I don't know, I was just always real intrigued by true crime. And I've always had like this weird little interest in like serial killers and, you know, what they do and how they do it and why. When she started doing her videos, I like binge watched all of them. And now I'm at the point in my life where I'm just like every Monday, I'm just waiting. But at the same time, I did kind of feel like, you know, girl, it's some good ones out here. Like, it's some really good ones out here. And so when you're filming a tutorial, like, I'm always like, what am I going to talk about? Why not tell some of the ones that I know and that I'm familiar with? Because I know some, like, crazy old deranged story. Like, some of them, all of them, you're just going to be like, wait. Okay, before anybody can say that I stole this concept, I just wanted to give credit to her. But I'm sure at least 2 people in the comments it's gonna be like, you stole this video idea, this is Bailey. But anyway, without further ado, if you are interested in, you know, watching me do this little look or whatever and listen to a crazy deranged true tale about a crazy cannibal, then just keep on watching. So today's story is about a psycho cannibal killer by the name of Issei Sagawa. He's from Kobe, Japan. That's the name of the Japanese restaurant I be eating at. Bruh. Issei was born in 1949 to very rich parents. So I'm not sure how they got their money. But he did have very rich parents and he had 1 brother. Growing up, he was very small, very skinny. And apparently, he was teased throughout his childhood for being so small and, you know, weakly, pale, ugly, all that. He claims that he first experienced cannibalistic desires in the 1st grade on the very first day. One of the little boys' thigh was exposed and he looked at it and thought, that looks delicious. And that's the quote from him. That was like his first little cannibal thought. He said that while other boys dreamed of bedding women, beautiful women, he always fantasized about eating them. He really didn't see anything wrong with his thoughts and how he fantasized about women. He felt like it was very much comparable to how other boys felt. He described it as simply a fetish, quote.
For example, if a normal man fancies a girl, he naturally feel a desire to see her as often as possible, to be close to her, to smell her and kiss her, right? To me, eating is just an extension of that. Frankly, I can't fathom why everyone doesn't feel this urge to eat, to consume other people.
Like, because it's nasty. I'd rather eat chicken. In a 2011 interview, he admitted that as a youth, he participated in bestiality with his dog. Now, we don't know how old he was, how old the dog was. He just said, as a youth, that's the quote, as a youth, he was out here being nasty with the dog. As he got older, his desires to eat beautiful women never went away. At 23, he decided that he was going to try to act on it. He saw this lady somewhere out in public. He followed her home, broke into her apartment at night while she was sleeping with the intent to tear away and walk away with a piece of her flesh. But she ended up waking up in the middle of the night during his attack and fought him off. The police were called. She thought that he was breaking in trying to rape her, but he was trying to eat, girl, but he wasn't trying to eat that. When the police got there and he was arrested, he went along with the whole rape thing. He took the rape charge and he never revealed his true desire, which was just to eat a little piece of her. He went a couple more years without trying any of those little stunts because, you know, I'm sure his confidence level was down. So when he turned 27, he moved to France to pursue a PhD in literature. His overwhelming desire to consume the flesh of a beautiful woman, it just kept growing. It just kept getting worse. He said that he feels like it eventually became an obsession, like it's all he could think about. He started picking up prostitutes. Like every day he would bring a prostitute home and try to build himself up to eat her, like kill her and consume her flesh. But he could never bring himself to actually kill them. Like he had a little gun he could never bring himself to actually pull the trigger because he said that his desire was never to kill anyone. He did not want to kill. He wanted to eat. So for years, he had these little practice runs with prostitutes that just failed. Like, he just would, I guess, have sex with them and just get to. So somewhere between 1980 and early 1981, he's now 32 years old, and he meets a fellow student by the name of Renee Hartbelt. And she was a young, beautiful, ambitious woman. She was 25, so she was fairly young. And just, you know, ready to get her learn on. And unfortunately, she ran into this sick little pervert. He befriends Renee, eventually gaining her trust. She was Dutch, so she wasn't from France. On June 10th, 1981, he invites her over for dinner and to study. He felt like this is it. Like, she was the one. She was the perfect candidate for his cannibalism, which we'll get into in a second. But anywho, he invites her over. He has a gun, and his plan is to shoot her and then eat her. But there are multiple stories. Like, it's like two conflicting stories going out. One says that the gun misfired while her back was turned, and then he froze up and he got too afraid to, you know, carry out his plan. And then the other story is that he just froze completely. Like, there was no misfiring of the gun. He just flaked out like he had done a million times before. Which I believe that's what happened, because she returned to his house the next night, and I just don't understand why she would if she was there and a gun misfired. I'm like, I'd be like, sir, what is you doing with this gun? Like, why is it out? What are we doing here? And I don't see why she would have returned to his home the very next day. But nevertheless, she does. So June 11th, 1981, she returns to his under the false pretense that they would be translating poetry, a poetry assignment or something for a class. And of course, he had these same plans for killing and devouring this beautiful young lady. He said he chose her because of her health and beauty. He felt like she embodied a lot of things that he lacked. He considered himself to be weak, ugly, and small. He was only 4'9", so he was small, okay? And from the pictures, he was ugly too. But anyway, we're not here to judge. I'm just here to tell the story. And Renee, on the other hand, was beautiful. She was healthy. She was smart. And she was tall. She was 5'10". He said that he wanted to consume her because he wanted to absorb her energy and all of the characteristics she possessed that he himself lacked. Ain't that some crazy shit? So she's sitting in his living room and her back is to him, and she begins to read the poetry, and he takes out a rifle and shoots her in the back of the head. Now, immediately after he shoots her in the back of the head, it all just becomes too much for his little heart to bear, and he faints right there in his living room. So ridiculous. So ridiculous. So eventually he comes to, and his account of what happened was, he said, I thought about calling an ambulance, but then I thought, hang on, don't be stupid. Too late for that. You've been dreaming about this for 32 years now, and it's actually happening. So he ditches the thought of dialing 911 or whatever it is over in France. So then he amps himself up, and he's ready to proceed with his original strange cannibalistic plans for consuming Miss Renee. But first, he rapes her corpse because, you know, he's weird, and of course he has to do some weird fucked up shit like that. And then he proceeds to bite into her flesh, and he was unable to tear the flesh with his teeth, with his little old teeth. So then he has to leave his apartment, go to the store and purchase a butcher knife, and then he returns with his tools. And when he returns, he says the first thing he did was cut into her buttocks. Nasty. That's just like a man, of course. That's some... Anyway.
He said, no matter how deep I cut, all I saw was the fat beneath the skin. It looked like corn, and it took a while to actually reach the red meat. The moment I saw the meat, I tore a chunk off with my fingers and threw it into my mouth. It was a truly historical moment.
Like, how nasty you gotta be, sir? He was very nasty and very unapologetic about this whole thing. He literally had no remorse at all. He just looked at this whole thing like this was a fantasy he always had, and he was just living his best life, doing the things that his little heart desired. He later said that his only regret was killing her, and not because that's a horrible thing to do, not because Lil Renee didn't deserve it, but because his desire was to eat living flesh. He regretted not eating her alive. And I quote, "What I truly wish was to eat her living flesh. Nobody believes me, but my ultimate intention was to eat her, not necessarily to kill her." Sir, excuse me? He continued to eat various parts of her body, like he just ate off her body for 2 whole days straight. He ate most of her face, her butt, her breasts, and her pelvic region. Disgusting motherfucker. And then he decided to refrigerate what was left. And then he wanted to discard the rest of her body that he had no desire to consume. He put her head, torso, and legs in 2 suitcases and called a cab. He Ubered to the park and decided he was just gonna like casually be walking through the park and just ditch the 2 suitcases and go unnoticed. Like, so stupid. You are pursuing a PhD and it's your plan, sir. Anyway, people at the park started to notice blood dripping from the suitcases because, of course, he was too scared to just go right in there and drop them. So he was just like walking around, waiting on his perfect opportunity to drop his suitcases. Meanwhile, they start dripping blood and people are noticing. So they called the French police and he was arrested, and they found, you know, the body parts in the bag, in the suitcase. When he got down to the station, he gave a very simple confession. It was just, "I killed her to eat her flesh." And he said it just like that, like, "Oh, I just killed her to eat her flesh," like it was nothing. As if the shit was normal. Like, sir, what? Eyebrows. What? Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, one of my eyebrows looks a whole lot less natural than the other, but I don't care. Not today. He comes from rich parents. So rich daddy got him a great lawyer, and he spent 2 years in a French prison awaiting trial. But when it came time to actually go to trial, right before it was time for him to go to trial, the judge declared him legally insane and unfit to stand trial, dropping all charges against him and ordering him to be held indefinitely in a mental institution. Goes to the mental institution, he's getting settled in, but the news outlets catch wind of like how crazy this story is, of course, like, and that he just, you know, pretty much got off on being mentally incompetent or mentally insane. And so it really like spread like wildfire, and it got a lot of attention, and friends didn't like that. Apparently they didn't like all the attention that it was getting, and they were just like, you know what, you need to be Japan's problem, because we didn't create this mess. So they deported him to Japan so they could just kind of like get him out of there, because they didn't have time apparently. And when he gets to Japan, they sent him to a Japanese mental institution where he was supposed to be held indefinitely. But get this, because the charges were dropped in France, the files were sealed, all of the court documents were sealed, and therefore unable to be released or transferred to the Japanese authorities. So when he got to Japan, they had nothing to go on, like no evidence, no nothing to charge him with anything. So they couldn't hold him. They had absolutely no case, so they had to let him go free. He literally was able to sign himself out of the mental hospital and walk out, and he did just that, and he has been out ever since. I think today he's like 70 years old, because he's still kicking, okay? He left the mental hospital in 1986, and he's been free, you know, ever since. He currently resides in Tokyo, Japan, where, you know, he's free to do as he pleases. Roam the streets, walk the streets, all that. But so between him leaving the mental hospital in 1986 and 1997, like late 90s, he did a bunch of interviews and says that the threat of spending life in prison has done nothing to lessen his desire to consume women. Like, he's still out here with these thoughts. I mean, this guy is really sick. He says, and I quote from an interview, "The desire to eat people becomes so intense around June when women start wearing less and showing more skin." He says, "Just today, I saw a girl with a really nice derriere on my way to the train station. When I see things like that, I think about wanting to eat someone again before I die. What I'm saying is, I can't bear the thought of leaving this life without ever tasting that derriere that I saw this morning or her thighs. I want to eat them again while I'm alive, so that I can at least be satisfied when I die." He's even planned on how he's going to do it. He plans on doing this again. And really nobody, like none of the authorities can do anything, because to their knowledge, he hasn't done it again. But he's been very vocal about his plans to do it again. And he said that either sukiyaki or shabu shabu, lightly boiled thin slices, is the best way to go in order to really savor the natural flavor of the meat. Like, how nasty you gotta be? I wanted to go to Tokyo before. Like, I thought, you know, y'all better be careful over in Tokyo, because the homeboy is on the loose. And granted, you know, he only 4'9". It's like a granddaddy Chucky, you know. He only 4'9", but he is really crazy. And hell, he's 70 now, so if he plans on eating another person before he dies, it sounds like that's gonna be really soon. I really love this palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I actually hadn't bought one since like the Renaissance. Alright, so that is it for this video. Do I look like a snack or not? I still get it like snack, because he said when one was cute he wanted to eat him. I am about to go film I only ate purple foods for 24 hours, and I kid you not, this purple makeup was not intentional for the video. It's just too much now. It's just too much. Okay, if you're interested in that video, depending on when you're watching this, it should be available. Yeah, if it's posted, I'll put it in the iCards right now for you to go ahead and click on, or at the end of this video, if you just go from here to there. But that's it. Thank you so much. See you in the next video. Bye.